It is another period and another day for me to bust my writing excuse. And today I'm asking myself, do I really need a perfect writing space to write? Do I really need a perfect writing space to write? Can I can I really have a perfect writing space? Whatever the question is that has been disturbing me. So now I have to ask myself, what is a perfect writing space? What does it mean? Perfect. For a writing space to be perfect, what does it mean? For most people, the conceptions we have in mind is after watching a lot of movies about writers, we have a quiet place, solitude, where the writers, yes, the movements of the muse, brilliant, wonderful, exciting. But okay, let me not get into the but yet. That's what we have in mind, like quiet place. Okay, great, wonderful, awesome. And then there is an organized desk. The desk is organized. There are a lot of books in the background. There are a lot of shelves of different books that the writer has read, and a lot of which he has never read, and he doesn't wish to read later on. But they're just there, and they're fantastic. And then there's also one other thing, which is the writer is writing very close to a window, and the window is looking across a horizon, and there is the sky and the sun setting and the sun rising, and then there is a river flowing across. And then so when you stand and look from the window, or probably when you're writing and you look through the window, you get to see a large expanse of land, a large expanse of building, children running, walking, chasing each other, kites flying, and all that. That's the belief. What we have of what a perfect writing space. Now, first, we can create what that perfect writing space is. Like, dude, what do you mean we can create what a perfect writing space is? I don't understand. Okay, I'll start with this. For most of the task of writing, it is done in the mind, and writing is one of the cheapest occupation to probably do. Writing is one of the cheapest creative pursuits. Cheap in the sense of the monetary cost to get started is low as possible. Now, as a writer, while you do need tools, but what are the tools of a writer? A pen and a book. These are one of the cheapest thing you could probably get. Yeah, you can get paper. Paper is cheap. Now, I don't know what the circumstance might be for you, but paper is cheap. And I'm saying that, yeah, paper is cheap. It's very, very, very cheap, especially if you're not looking to get a luxury, thick leather back cover. I mean, it's just a size book or just paper that you probably would clip with some pin. It's very cheap to get and you can use it to write. And then there's pen and then there's biro. And those are things that you can really get. It's cheap, it's easy. It's not like one of those things. Like I'm trying to compare it with other forms of creative pursuits where you need to get probably a software, very expensive software. That's if it's a modern craft. And then you'd also need to get, let's say you're a painter, for example. You paint, right? You need to get a canvas. That's more way expensive. I don't know how much that costs, but you need to get paints. You need to get different paints, and then you get oil paint. I know that's expensive, but I don't paint. Probably in the future I'll try doing that, but I don't paint. But you need to get that, and then you need to get other things. And then I understood why there were instances of painters painting over paintings in the past, because these painters were practicing. And so when they were practicing, when they paint the first painting, they were like, wow, awesome, wonderful. And then they paint over it again. Yeah. And then when we are looking at the painting, we see that, wow, there are layers and layers of different individual paintings on top of each other. Like, it's really expensive. But paper is, because, we look at it, the luxury at which in the past you see writers writing, and when the writing doesn't really articulate as much as they desire, what you realize is that they squeeze the paper and then they throw it to the trash bin. If paper was that expensive, you won't do that. No, you will not do that. Like, you would not like just squeeze the paper and that you won't do that. Now, we've agreed that the materials we need to get started is easy. But then we are like, what is the perfect space? First, we need to ask ourselves. Now, I get it that you probably might be in a war tiered zone where every time you try to write, bullets are moving and you have to escape for your life. That is understandable. But the thing is this: are you in a space where you can write without being disturbed, even though the place is noisy? Like, you are there, but you are there, but you are shut out from the world. Yeah. People cannot disturb you. Like, when I mean people cannot disturb you, people cannot come tap you, say, hey man, what's going on? How you doing? How's life treating you? And so I'm looking at like what is a perfect writing space? Where could I possibly get a perfect writing space? And I'm also looking at how can I create my own perfect writing space. Now, first I'll address where could I get a perfect writing space? Now, where could I get a perfect writing space? The first thing that comes to mind is a library. Now, depends on where you are listening to my podcast from, and yeah, if you're listening from the first world countries, the US, New Zealand, Canada, all those other countries, yeah, European, UK, there are libraries, and you can go to the library and sit down and write, which is great, which is fantastic. And right, and the library usually is a serene environment. It's quiet. You just the one sitting out there. And I don't know how the libraries are in your country now, but one thing I know about libraries is that a lot of people don't go there to read. Now, I'm saying this based on my observation here in Nigeria in libraries. It's not like I've traveled the world and I have statistics to back it out for other countries. But what I'm saying is that most people you see in libraries, in the library, they probably have an exam they're preparing for. And just in one or two case scenario that you have someone who is actually there to pursue knowledge. Like it's not like, oh, I have this exam I need to write next week or something like that. They're just there to they're curious to know, and so they need to satisfy their curiosity. Without satisfying the curiosity, they cannot live there. They cannot do anything else. It's a burning rage in them. So you could sit down there. Usually you have a table and a chair to yourself, and then write, which is fantastic. You call that from the people you know, and you get to write and do what you want to do, and come outside and then leave, which is a great opportunity for you out there. Okay. Now, another reason why most people don't use libraries is because there are there are laptops, there are phones, and there are all those things, and most of the information you probably will be looking for, you can get it. Now, not everybody is doing research or studying or doing all those things. Yeah. And there are libraries, and if you have a university close to you, which that's great, you can use the university library. Depending on the laws of the university, you can also use the classrooms. You can just go into the classroom, sit down, and write what you want to write. Now, back to a perfect writing space. Another perfect writing space you probably could use is I kind of think of the Catholic Church, or majorly just the church, or the mosque. These religious buildings are usually quiet and serene on the days where there are no activities. Yeah, they're very, very quiet, and you can just sit down there and just collect your thoughts. Sit down there and just stare at the ceiling and just go deep into thoughts and write and probably do what you want to do, which is great, which is awesome, which is wonderful. But then there's a problem, and then there's a catch, because the place is very far from us. Now it could be that the library is just a step away from your house, but it's very far from us. So you'd have to walk and go. So each time you feel you want to write, you have to spare probably 5 to 10 minutes in order to get to where you need to write, in order to sit down and then to start writing. That's a lot of time. Yeah. And not everybody has that opportunity out there. So the question is, how do you create a perfect writing space? Now, in creating a perfect writing space, I think there are three folds, and that is, how does the writing space look? Okay. How does the writing space look? Yeah. And then how does the writing space sound? So in terms of sounding, it's more like is the place noisy? Is the place? I just remembered. I almost forgot. I think the third place you could also check out is coffee shops. Now it depends on your country. Yeah, I really say it depends on your country. But coffee shops, in some countries, you can go to coffee shops and just sit down and write. I think we have instances of different writers like J.K. Rowling, who wrote some of their works in coffee shops, and yeah, other writers too. It's a quiet place. You just move in there and there. But I love the idea of bringing the writing space to your side, to your house. And so, how do we create our own perfect writing space? So, I think a perfect writing space is in threefold. It is, how does it look, how does it sound, and uh, what is the third one? What is the third one? I don't know what the third one is right now, but probably while I'm talking, I'll figure it out. Okay. So how does it look? Usually, if you're in your room, you can arrange your room and have a desk and a chair, which you go sit and you write. Now, you don't need to have a desk and a chair in order to write, but you could create something like that and then write, which is wonderful, like beautiful. The other thing you could do is you could ask yourself if you want to make, how does it look, how does it look like? Okay, now, so the organization, how is it organized such that, you want to give yourself breathing space. If everywhere is scattered and tattered, it looks as if they're choking you, and you probably, you can't even breathe. Yeah, so I think you could try as much as possible to arrange this space. It doesn't have to be your space. You could create a small space out there and then sit down and write. Now, one thing I have noticed, well, I was talking about how does it sound. One thing I've noticed is that no matter how noisy a place might be, there is always a time in which that place is quiet. Yeah, so if you probably live in a house where everybody's talking, everybody's just like stuff, and like, you share a room with a lot of persons, and a lot of things are going on and happening. There's usually a time in which everybody's asleep. Could be probably by 3 a.m. in the morning, everybody's asleep. 4 a.m. in the morning, everybody's asleep. That place, that time it's quiet, it's serene. You only get the crickets chirping outside and all that. Brilliant, wonderful. Another thing is you can create your own secluded environment sound. So you can use earplugs. Now, when you use earplugs, you're cut out from the world. You don't get to hear what is happening. You can use noise cancelling headphones. Now, you don't necessarily have to use music, because not everybody likes using music, because then their mind wanders off in the music and everything. I get. So you could just do that, or you could put ambient sounds. So ambient sounds are like quiet. It could be coffee shop sounds. It could be brain falling. So it's not really a sound that you want to start dancing to or stuff like that, but it's just quiet. And others listen to music. So it depends on what works for you. But that way, even if you are in an environment where everything is sounding different, you create your own artificial form of sound. Yeah, and you're listening to it, which is great. And there's a lot of apps and other things there. And so, in creating the perfect working space, the whole idea for me is, how do I create a portable work space? So the question I'm asking, what do I mean by portable working space? As a writer, if you have a writer notebook, a writer notebook that is built to withstand wear and tear, to be withstand moving, traveling, and going through a lot of things. It's a book. It's not that expensive, but it's what do I even mean? Something like this. Yeah, this is a leather. Is this leather? Yes. But it's a hardcover book. Yeah. Now, because of the hardcover, usually to make it more expensive, but you don't have to buy something like this. But the whole idea is that with this book, it's portable, and wherever I am, I just open it and I get to start writing. Now, that is brilliant. That is awesome. That is wonderful. But the major thing I've been working on now, and my focus has been on, is creating a digital workspace. So a digital workspace, the tools I use are Notion, which is completely free, and there is Google Docs, which is also completely free. So I use Google Docs. All my poems and everything, my stories are in Google Docs, which I've been using for a long time. I'm just trying out Notion for now. I usually use Notion when I'm writing from my laptop. While on my phone, I use Google Docs, because the experience is just better for me. So while writing on Google Docs is connected to my email. So whatever I write, I don't have to go and start asking myself, how do I back it up? No. Well, I'm writing it. Immediately I'm writing it. It's like I don't even know, like I'm not even aware of what's going on, but it's backed up. And once it's backed up, even if I'm writing it offline, like there's no data, nothing, and I'm writing in my Google Docs. Once I leave the Google Docs, and later on, I'll definitely on data later on in the future. I wouldn't, like, it's not something I would now say, I would have to say, oh, please go and click on that thing to make it sure it backs up. No, it does everything in the background, and I'm not even aware. But each time I go to other devices, I see that all my stuff, all the things I've written are synced up. So the whole idea is, even if I was to lose my phone, I would be able to log into my email and access all my writings and everything backed up in the cloud, which is great. And with my phone, anywhere I am sitting in the workstation, I can, plug in my AirPod, and did I say AirPod? EarPod, yeah, EarPod, and listen to music, or just noise cancelling, shut off from the environment and write. For the question is a perfect writing space, is it really an issue? Or do we have to move away from a comfort zone? Is it just one of the excuses that I've created in order to stop myself from writing? Like today, I sat down and I wrote for 20 minutes, and I just wrote. I didn't put so much pressure, because then I realized that, look, this is no longer an act of brilliance, of intellectual intelligence, or any of those things. This is an act of courage. I need courage to go out there, even though I know that nothing's going to happen to me. And that's one of the weird things that I'm afraid of. Like, That's one of the weird things because I know that when I'm writing, it's not like I'm one of those old time writers where if you wrote something, your work got published, you could probably lose your head, and your family could probably die for what you wrote. And then I'm just writing, and I'm writing a beautiful poem, nothing like that. And I don't know why I'm overthinking it. Yeah, I don't know why I am overthinking it. I don't know why I am overthinking it. So the question I'm asking is, how do you possibly create your own perfect writing space? How do we leave the comfort zone trap that we need a perfect writing space in order to? So while a perfect writing space is in your hand, depending on the situation, you can create it. You can also move to somewhere else, depending on the work you're working on. And then usually, the most of the writing we do is in our mind. And I don't know if you do daydream or not, but sometimes I just wander off in my mind and I'm like just in my own completely different world. And it's exciting, it's wonderful. I love the feeling of it. Yeah, it's great. This is another reminder to myself that you do not need a perfect writing space in order to write. You can always create it. You can always write. Having a perfect writing space is just one of the things we come up with to deceive ourselves. Now look at it. For most of us, we know. Like, let's be honest. For most of us, we know that we have an environment that allows us to write. Not all of us do, but we have an environment that allows us to write. So 5, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, something you can write. Now, if you're probably looking for 8 hours, except of course you are a full-time writer and that's what you do, which is brilliant. But for most of us, we're not full-time writers, and that's not like what we do full-time. That's you can get 30 minutes, 1 hour of undivided, undisturbed time. Yeah, in your daily busy schedule and everything, and the space to write. You create the space. The feeling you give to the space is what it is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's it for do I really need a writing space, a perfect writing space, or whatever it is. And remember, your masterpiece can be written anywhere. And this is a reminder to myself, your masterpiece can be written anywhere. Now go find your space. Should I say the word go find your space? Well, for most of us, we'll be finding it, but for others, we'll be creating it. Yeah. It's probably very, very easy for us to create. Now, if you have any questions, please let me know, and I'd love to gladly answer them. If you do also want to let me know how you've created a perfect writing space and how you have used what you have to do and create what you to create and write, let me know and go to buildwriting.com/podcast and record an audio message. Yeah, and just click on the appropriate button. Every week I do send a newsletter on my writing progress, and you can subscribe at buildwriting.com/newsletter. And every Friday I send a newsletter out on the progress I'm making as regards my writing. So far now, today is the day I just started a 100 days challenge of writing every day, and it's fun. Yeah, it's really fun. I reframe, give importance to the task, and it has really been exciting. So, what skills do you want me to cover next? Until next time, keep writing. You've been listening to the Build Writing Podcast, and I'm your host, Oyemichi Noakonam. And until next time, keep writing.